The Valdrine warship Crimson Talon had captured many species across the galaxy, but humans were a new addition to their collection. When Ronan Hale was dragged through the dim corridors of the alien vessel, he knew his chances of survival were minimal at best. The Valdrine were apex predators from a world where only the strong survive past adolescence. Their bodies were covered in obsidian scales, their eyes burned like molten amber, and their jaws could crush durasteel. They had conquered 17 systems through sheer ferocity, and they viewed other species as either servants or sport. Captain Threxus, the ship's commander, circled Ronan with predatory interest. The human stood at 6 feet tall, muscular but unremarkable by Valdrine standards. His brown hair was matted with sweat, and his hazel eyes showed defiance despite the plasma restraints binding his wrists. "This one claims to be a diplomat," Threxus hissed, his forked tongue tasting the air. "We shall see how diplomatic humans truly are." The other Valdrine warriors laughed, a sound like grinding stone. They had a tradition for testing new species, a trial they called the Korsha, the proving. Captives were placed in the nurturing chambers with their predator cubs. If the captives survived until morning, they earned a degree of respect. Most didn't last 2 hours. Threxus gestured to his subordinates. "Take him to Chamber 7. Let the young ones play with their new toy." Ronan was hauled through the ship until they reached a massive circular room. The walls were made of reinforced transparent alloy, allowing observers to watch from outside. Inside, the temperature was sweltering, designed to mimic the volcanic nurseries of the Valdrine homeworld. As the guards shoved him inside and removed his restraints, Ronan heard them. The cubs' .4 juvenile Valdrine emerged from the shadows, each the size of a large wolf. Their scales hadn't hardened yet, showing patches of vulnerable skin beneath. They were perhaps 3 cycles old, adolescents by Valdrine standards, but still deadly. The largest cub stepped forward, his amber eyes fixed on Ronan. This was Korik, the alpha of his clutch. His scales bore the darker hue that marked him as future warrior caste. Behind him came his siblings, 2 females and 1 smaller male, all watching the human with predatory curiosity. "Fresh meat," Korik growled in the guttural Valdrine tongue, a language Ronan had studied during his diplomatic training. The human slowly sat down, crossing his legs on the heated floor. He made no aggressive moves, no attempts to reach for a weapon he didn't possess. Instead, he simply watched them with calm, assessing eyes. The cubs circled him, confused by his lack of fear. Most prey species panicked, ran, fought back. This human just sat there, breathing steadily, his heart rate barely elevated. Korik snapped his jaws near Ronan's face, a test. The human didn't flinch. "You understand me," Korik said, surprised. "I do," Ronan replied in perfect Valdrine, his accent carrying the proper hisses and clicks. "And I understand you're hungry, angry, and testing whether I'm worth killing." The cubs recoiled slightly. Prey didn't speak their language. Prey didn't understand pack dynamics. "I'm Ronan," he continued. "And you're Korik. Your clutch looks strong." Outside the chamber, Captain Threxus watched with narrowed eyes. This human was either incredibly foolish or dangerously intelligent. Hours passed. The cubs stalked around Ronan, occasionally testing him with swipes that he dodged with minimal movement. He never attacked back, never showed aggression. Instead, he began talking to them. He told them stories, tales of Earth, of humans who had survived impossible odds. He spoke of pack dynamics, of loyalty, of what it meant to be strong without being cruel. The cubs, who had known only violence and hierarchy, listened despite themselves. When the smaller male cub, weak and often bullied by his siblings, approached cautiously, Ronan noticed the limp in his gait. Without hesitation, the human examined the cub's foreleg and found an infected wound, likely from a dominance fight. "This needs to be cleaned," Ronan said, tearing a strip from his uniform. Korik growled a warning. "Touch him and die, human. If I don't, the infection will spread. He'll be dead in 3 days." Ronan met the alpha cub's gaze steadily. "Is that what you want for your pack?" For a long moment, predator and human stared at each other. Then Korik gave a slight nod. Ronan worked carefully, using water from the chamber's environmental system to clean the wound. The small cub whimpered but held still. The human's hands were gentle but efficient, and he hummed a low sound, something soothing from his own species' repertoire. The female cubs watched with fascination. Never had they seen such behavior from prey. As night deepened on the ship's cycle, exhaustion began to take its toll on Ronan. But he noticed something else. The cubs were young, and despite their predatory nature, they were still children. They huddled together for warmth in the corner of the chamber, a behavior their adult overseers had tried to train out of them. Ronan, understanding pack dynamics better than the Valdrine realized, moved to sit with his back against the wall near them, not threatening their space, but close enough to offer presence. Korik watched him with suspicious eyes. "My species has a saying," Ronan said quietly. "Strength isn't just about who can kill. It's about who you protect." The alpha cub considered this. On the Valdrine homeworld, weakness was culled. But this human had shown something different: strength through compassion, power through restraint. Slowly, hesitantly, Korik moved closer. Then his siblings followed. By the deepest part of the night cycle, the four cubs had arranged themselves around Ronan, using his warmth and presence as an anchor. The human stayed awake, keeping watch over them as they slept. Outside, Captain Threxus watched in stunned silence. In all his years, he had never seen prey become pack. When morning came, the chamber doors opened automatically. The Valdrine warriors expected to find a corpse. Instead, they found Ronan standing calmly, the four cubs arrayed around him in a protective formation. Korik stood at the human's right side, his posture declaring ownership and defense. "This human is ours," the young alpha growled at his own species. "He is pack." Captain Threxus entered the chamber slowly, his hand on his plasma weapon. The cubs bristled, ready to defend their unlikely pack member. For the first time in his military career, Threxus felt something he rarely experienced: doubt. This human had accomplished in one night what took Valdrine warriors years of battle to achieve: the absolute loyalty of a clutch. "Explain yourself, human," Threxus demanded. Ronan stepped forward calmly, the cubs moving with him. "Your species values strength through conquest. Mine values strength through connection. I showed your young what true pack means. Not just hierarchy, but care. You were meant to be tested, broken, killed." "I know." Ronan's eyes were steady. "But your cubs needed something you couldn't teach them. They needed to learn that strength and compassion aren't opposites." Threxus looked at Korik, seeing something new in the young alpha's bearing. Pride, purpose, protection. The captain made a decision that would change Valdrine-human relations forever. He lowered his weapon. "The Korsha is complete. By our law, you have earned respect." He paused, then added words that shocked his crew. "The cubs have chosen. You will be escorted as one of ours." As Ronan Hale walked through the corridors of the Crimson Talon that morning, he was flanked by four predator cubs who had learned that humans were not prey. They were something far more dangerous. They were pack. And in the cold equations of galactic politics, that made all the difference. Behind them, Captain Threxus watched and wondered if his species had finally met their match. Not in weapons or warships, but in the simple human ability to turn enemies into family. The galaxy would never be the same.